Back to the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. Very special episode today discussing everything involved in the Larry Nassar ongoing sentencing case. I want to be joined now by Ross Jones, WXYZ investigative reporter. Thank you so much for being here on a Sunday, Ross. I appreciate that.
Thank you for doing this.
Ryan Schuiling as well. He's the host of the Schuiling Report, 92.1 FM in Lansing, and he's been on the floor, ground floor with this thing since it got started. And very vocal, both of you have been in your reporting and your coverage of this. I have not been in the courtroom or around the courtroom as much as you guys have been. Can you guys shed a little bit of light on what it's been like in that courtroom for people who maybe have only seen snippets of some of the impact statements?
I think whether you see a snippet or a long-form statement, Justin, or whether you're there for the whole thing, what strikes me is you have between 40 and 50 victims of Penn State and Jerry Sandusky and everything that went on there in the shadows. And yet those victims were male and those victims were believed. It took showing up in court, putting their names to this, putting their faces to this, having their voices lent to this, for people like Tom Izzo, for people like Luanna K. Simon, and like we saw last night, for people like Mitch Lyons to finally speak up and come forward that because of these statements, now their perspective has changed. That's what strikes me.
It has been frustrating, I think, as not just a journalist, as an alum, to watch Michigan State's response to this. It's almost as if, for them, this scandal didn't begin until last week, right? Because this took on such a different tone. And you're absolutely right. We've been covering this for the better part of a year. We sat down with Joel Ferguson and he said, you know what, we're going to look great by the time this is over. This is being driven by ambulance-chasing attorneys. That's who's behind this. Really?
Right.
And to hear these victims stand up and say to Larry Nassar and to Michigan State and to Luanna Simon in the best terms possible, just how you dropped the ball here, that's what took this to another level, and I'm so glad it's finally getting the attention. We've been trying to give it for a year.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's no way that we should not stop covering it here. It will advance from here. When you guys think about the advancement of this story and how it will get further and further out into the public view, how has this media coverage in a way can help this story grow, and it can help get to the bottom of this, and it can hold people accountable. And I think that's the bottom line from all of the women we just spoke with. They want accountability here. Do we feel like we're getting closer? I mean, Mitch Lyons came out, let's look at the statement late last night, because the Board of Trustees came out on Friday saying that they were going to, basically all stick with Luanna K. Simon, but Mitch Lyons, he couldn't say that. In a prepared statement, he says, I feel that the best recourse is for President Simon to resign immediately in order to allow the healing process to begin, first and foremost for the survivors and secondarily for our university. I believe that without question, the public has lost confidence in Dr. Simon to effectively lead this university, and I believe that loss of confidence is irreparable. We're starting to see a little bit of shift in the leadership, and they're not a conjoined unit. I mean, is this what we need to see happen so that proper steps can be taken forward from here?
Justin, the pressure from the outside needs to be matched by the pressure from the inside. And bravo for Mitch Lyons for being the one to come forward. Despite all his personal troubles outside, people think he might be motivated by re-election. He's not running again. And you know what? Neither is Brian Breslin. But the buck stops with Luanna K. Simon. And for me, there was the damned if she does and damned if she doesn't. The damned if she does is she shows up in court, she takes the heat, the bullets. That's why she's there. To face Lindsay Lemke head on, to know her name, to know their stories. The damned if she doesn't, which is what she chose, is to hide behind PR cover, legal cover, to worry about the brand of the university. If you're worried about the brand of the university, you're worried about the stories and the welfare of these young women, first and foremost, no matter what happens to you politically or personally. And that's the step that President Simon has failed to take.
One of the survivors said last week that Michigan State has been worried about looking good rather than being good. And that is exactly what this was. From minute one, they have been on the defense, they have been deflecting, they have been saying it was impossible for us to catch this guy. I have been told it is impossible for a child predator like this to be caught. That's what Luanna said on day one. And they continue to deflect. They said, we've got this investigation we're going to do. It's going to show you everything. Actually, you know what? It's not really an investigation, and we're not actually going to show it to you. There was a playbook here that they could have followed with Penn State. A horrific thing that happened there. But once it did, Penn State was as transparent as they could be. They cleaned house entirely. Michigan State, it seems like they're trying to do whatever they can to not be Penn State. And that's not going to happen here.
And you know what's interesting is I was in Pittsburgh during the Penn State fallout and whatnot. So I saw that firsthand, and I wonder, that was such an unprecedented situation. Everyone kept saying, oh, this unprecedented situation. This is not an unprecedented situation anymore. So for Michigan State to fail these women for 14 different accounts is what they have, is what the investigation shows. What's going to happen next? What's when you look at, you know, obviously not your thoughts, but when the legal process will play out here, what's going to end up happening to Michigan State here?
I just don't understand why Brian Breslin is choosing this hill to die on. It has to be President Simon. She has to stay in power. Why? Why are you married to that notion? Why are you committed to that above all else? Why is Tom Izzo saying, I can't possibly question my loyalty, my dedication, my faith in Luana K. Simon, the leadership of the university, when Kathy Klages at one point probably said the very same thing about Larry Nassar? When you look at the political implications, you have a gubernatorial race coming up. Gretchen Whitmer, in my very studio, told me that there needed to be an outside investigation. Bill Schuiling will likely be her opponent. He came on my show Friday, said the exact same thing, and they've now appealed to him for an independent investigation. It doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat, Justin, this is going to be a central issue in the governor's race, and believe me, it will be front of mind awareness for everybody in that voting booth.
Guys, continue your good coverage of this as well. Ryan, thank you so much for coming over from Lance and Ross. As always, we'll see you in the newsroom covering this story right here on Channel 7 as well. Guys, coming up next, though, a few final thoughts from this very special and heartbreaking episode of the Suburban Forward 7 Sportscape. Stay with us.